Behind the police tape, this normally crowded market in the central China city of Wuhan sits eerily desolate. This is ground zero for the illness sparking global unease. So this is where authorities believe the source of the coronavirus is. It's the wildlife and seafood market. And you can perhaps see over there, it's cordoned off. You've got police at all the corners. It is so sensitive that within minutes of us arriving and recording, security asked us to stop filming. There is an uneasiness felt throughout Wuhan. We experienced that as soon as we boarded the train from Beijing. Each car nearly full, most faces covered, just about everyone traveling home for the Lunar New Year. Strict screening upon arrival. One by one, passengers step through a thermometer check to make sure they are not bringing a fever with them. Scenes like this playing out in transportation hubs across China.
The virus was being spread mainly through respiratory transmission and is likely to mutate, which will increase the risk of epidemics spreading. In addition, the Spring Festival travel rush saw a mass migration of people, and that has objectively increased the risk of epidemics spreading and the difficulties in taking effective preventative and control measures. We should always be on high alert and never take this lightly.
Behind me, this is one of a few hospitals here in the region that's dedicated to treating some of those who are either confirmed cases or suspected cases of the coronavirus. Out front, you've got a few staff members who we notice are all wearing masks. Some of them are even wearing protective gloves, just to prevent any potential exposure. It's brought the normally festive holiday mood in Wuhan to a halt, and it's cut down this vendor's business.
This year, the pneumonia situation is getting serious, so there are not so many people coming here to buy goods.
She's from a city that's about 2 hours' drive from Wuhan. She's got her mask nearby, and she admits she's worried. And so too is her daughter and other relatives.
They were asking me to go back home, but I can't leave with all my inventory here. I've already bought these goods. I have no choice, and I have to stay here and resign myself to my fate.
Other vendors more hopeful. This woman telling me she does not feel the need to wear a mask.
Maybe I am having a positive outlook. I have been checking online instructions on Baidu, like drinking more water or washing your hands more frequently. I think that should be fine.
The unknowns looming over a city with a rising death toll. Unclear what's next for Wuhan and the 11 million people who call it home. Well, we were subject to some of those health checks because, as you mentioned, we were among the passengers who left Wuhan to come back to Beijing just a few hours ago, really. And we were among the last trains to leave before that lockdown went into place. Now, it's pretty basic as far as what the screening in of itself looks like. I mean, as soon as we got off the train here, it was one by one that they would put a thermometer to our heads and check to see whether or not we had a fever, and then let us continue walking. Those are what we see. I can also tell you, as you're going through security to get onto the train, leaving Wuhan, we noticed they had a kind of a system set up where they had monitors and they were doing thermal detectors, and so they were looking without folks even realizing it at that moment. And all the folks who are now staff members in those stations, and even the police and the paramilitary who are there, are noticeably covering their faces as well. In Wuhan in particular, that's now mandatory, this wearing a face mask to protect not only yourself, but others. The journey for us was interesting. I mean, it was a 3 a.m. wake-up that really got us mobilized to realize that this might be the last time in a good number of days that we would be able to leave Wuhan pretty easily. And so we did book a train. We managed to get out, but so did, I would say, hundreds of others who were along with us, who got up early, who were with their families, who got together the luggage they had and got into long lines waiting to try to get a ticket on the train. And most that we saw were able to do that and able to get on. There was one instance that stands out to me, though, as we were boarding, and we noticed a couple standing there. And they went all the way up to the platform, John, and they did not get on the train, but they were waving at their son and his grandfather. They sent the two of them on here to Beijing, and CNN asked, why did you not join them? And they said they didn't want to risk exposing their loved ones who live up here to any potential threats. So that tells you just how divisive it is, even with families. And this is a time when families are supposed to be together. It's the Spring Festival, the Lunar New Year. And so it's causing, for some, separation. John?
A new Chinese coronavirus, a cousin of the SARS virus, can be spread between humans, according to a scientist appointed by the government. Now officials in China are racing to contain the Wuhan coronavirus by increasing the number of infrared temperature screening areas in public spaces. The outbreak has spread to at least 5 countries, including Thailand, Japan, South Korea, and now the U.S. Coronaviruses are a large group of viruses common among animals. In rare cases, they can be transmitted from animals to humans, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The viruses can make people sick, usually with a mild to moderate upper respiratory tract illness similar to a common cold. Symptoms include a runny nose, cough, sore throat, possibly a headache, and maybe a fever, which can last for a couple of days. There are a handful of human coronaviruses that are known to be deadly, including Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, or MERS, and severe acute respiratory syndrome, better known as SARS. Right now, there are no vaccines to protect against this family of viruses, but the National Institutes of Health in the U.S. are working on one to combat Wuhan coronavirus. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.